Hi, it's Ian from the Postal Hub Podcast.
And Marek from Last Mile Experts.
And we are the Last Mile Prophets. This is the last word on the last mile. Marek, it's the end of 2021. I mean, I'm exhausted and I haven't been out there delivering. It's been another huge year thanks to e-commerce driven by the pandemic. And I feel like that after 2020, which was just this mad scramble, there's been a little bit more of a feeling of right now we've got to actually build on. We in the postal and delivery sector have to build on what we've achieved so far. All this extra capacity. We've proved that we can do various things. Marek, what have you seen as some of the big learnings, to use a word that I hate, some of the big learnings out of 2021?
Well, I think probably the biggest single one is, unfortunately, COVID is going to be around for some time, which has quite significant implications. I would say that e-commerce is going to continue growing even faster. The capacity issues around e-commerce are going to continue to be issues. So carriers, posts, and all stakeholders in the last mile space, I think, need to adapt. So that would be my feeling. And then maybe before you ask Ian, the big thing, surprise, surprise, I'm going to say this demands more than ever IDM, so that whether someone's at home or not at home, or if they want contactless delivery, you can do that efficiently. And you need an alternative to home delivery out of home.
I think that you're spot on when you talk about the software. Let me just share something from my own personal experience. This year, I've had deliveries from the post, from private carriers, and Amazon. Who do you think's given me the best service?
Sorry, everybody. I would suggest it begins with a rather large A.
It is. It's Amazon. And I hate having to admit that in some respects. But they do it so well. I mean, right now I'm dealing with a return for something I bought. Now, the carrier made a mess of it, right? I'm going to spare the carrier's blushes by not naming them, but it's a big, global, integrated carrier. Let's put it that way, all right? I smashed up my package. It's completely gone to where. And they had almost all of my order was in there. The one other box is fine. Now I have to organise a return. They have to come here. I have to print something out, list all the things on this printout that were wrong. With Amazon, I had something went wrong. I just took it to a Pudo and dropped it off. So even when things go wrong, Amazon's superior. So it's the software, it's the systems that make it easy. I know it's a bit of a rant, Marek, and not really what I wanted to say.
Would you rant? Mr. Kerr, never.
I usually spare everybody the rants because I do tend to go on and on a little bit sometimes. But this is getting to the core of something I've been saying on the Postal Hub podcast a lot over recent weeks, and I will be saying again in 2022, is that posts run the risk of waking up one day and finding themselves irrelevant because they've been overtaken by everybody else when it comes to that last mile experience. And Marek, you mentioned IDM. All of these things I'm talking about, are they new or are they readily available to posts if they wanted to get it, or even carriers?
Ian, you're absolutely right. They're not new. And honestly, my view, a lot of people say to me, no, our legacy system doesn't let us do it. I don't think it's true. I think it's in here. It's the vision. If you've got the vision to do it, it's possible. Look at Amazon. And, I don't want this to be a we love Amazon show, full stop. But the reality is 10 years ago, they were nowhere. There are probably in the Western Hemisphere 2 companies that have got state-of-the-art IDM today. One is Amazon. The other, I'm proud to say, is my former, actually, they were both my former employers. My other former employer is DPD. Not DPD in every country, but specifically DPD UK with Predict. And they're incredibly effective systems. And I think, Ian, that, people are going to have to wake up. I think some will. And one thing we didn't talk about, but I think what's really interesting, I said Poland is locker land a while ago, and it is. 16,000 plus InPost lockers already. But what is really, really interesting is we've now got Alibaba through Cainiao. We've got Shopee from Singapore in the market. We've got Allegro. We've got perhaps less effective, but eBay. Everybody is here. And I think it's going to be very interesting. Poland's going to be a little bit of a sort of testing ground for the last mile. And let's see what the others do. Can Cainiao in Europe develop superior IDM? Can Shopee do it? Can Allegro do it? Very interesting times ahead.
Turning to the matter of what COVID has taught us, what we've had to deal with thanks to COVID, I also think that we're going to see increasing focus on automating sorting centres because of what's been happening with illness in those sorting centres. Entire shifts get knocked out because one person has come down with COVID or has returned a positive test, I suppose is a better way of putting it. So perhaps, Marek, we're going to see the focus sharpen when it comes to automating more in sorting centres, delivery centres, whatever you want to call a parcel processing facility. And that will involve a lot of negotiation with unions, especially for those state-owned postal operators.
I agree. I think there's going to be a bit of a challenge at the same time, which is, on one hand, you need the automation. On the other hand, the last mile's changing. People want things faster. You need more, should we say, the stock to be localized. Therefore, you need, let's call them micro fulfillment centers or urban depots. And that's going to change the infrastructure. So you've got a dilemma. You need to automate, but you're not really sure how the final model is going to work. And automation, we know, is a big deal. You buy stuff for 10, 15 years. So it's going to be an interesting challenge for our ops guys.
It is. And just overlaying all of that is what's happening in things like smart cities, green cities, eco zones, low emission zones that we're seeing across many parts of Western Europe and in major cities in other parts of the world, where if it's not already happened, they're talking about having, when I say they, I mean policymakers, local governments, or whoever it might be. I think that's something else that will be complicating, well, not complicating, because in some respects the answer is easy. People say, just get a cargo bike. But, it's just one more thing to think about, isn't it, Marek?
I think so, Ian. You know what I think will be interesting? This is completely impromptu, and let's do this. If you were to just, from the top of your mind, choose what would be the top 3 things that you think are going to happen next year. But I'll be fair, I'll give you a bit of a chance to think, because I'll throw my 3 things into the pot. Probably actually also more difficult because I'll have already said some of them, and you can agree, of course. But I would say, if I were to choose the top 3 things, I think the first is going to be, without any doubt, continued growth of out of home. So both PUDOs and lockers. And I remember we had a webinar in which we asked people what percentage of parcels are going to be out of home at the end of the decade. And most people said 40 to 60%. My view is that maybe even next year in developed Western European markets, we might come close to that overall. So I think that's one thing. We're going to have out of home growing in importance. I think we're going to see more differentiation and more success on the part of the players that have good interactive delivery tools. Customers will appreciate it. And I think the third thing that we can expect is e-commerce being even more engaged. So the guys and girls who are out there in Poland right now, I think they're going to spread out. And, woe behold the carriers and the posts that don't wake up to this and don't prepare themselves.
Right. Well, here are my top 3. And anybody who's spoken to me over the last couple of weeks knows what's on my mind. I want to echo one of the things that Marek has just said, and it's all to do with the software, interactive delivery management, and all of that, because this is all about efficiency. I know we've always talked about it from a customer experience perspective, but it's also about efficiency, getting the parcels delivered to where the customer wants. We're still not doing it right in the postal sector. We're not coping with failed first-time deliveries properly. We're not educating our customers well enough to tell them about out-of-home delivery, and so they can choose when to use it, when not to use it, get their parcels delivered delivered the most efficient way, at the same time pleasing the customers the most. There's a lot wrapped up in that, so there's one thing. In no particular order, though, on the environment, sustainability, emissions, all of that, the grace period that we've had is over. There are increasing rumblings at EU level and in various governments talking about reducing tailpipe emissions. And across the entire transport sector, we're going to get caught up in that, no matter what way we want to look at it. And it doesn't matter what your political persuasion is, it's just a sheer fact of life. You will need to respond to this. The third thing is going to be what's happening with ultrafast delivery or quick commerce, whatever you want to call it. I know, Marek, you and I have already recorded a video saying that we reckon it's going to be consolidation. I reckon it's going to really ramp up over 2022, and we're going to see whether this baby's going to fly or if it's going to sink. Can they fly or sink? It's sink or swim, you know what I mean. And I have my doubts about it. I think that there are a lot of things that can go wrong, and that supermarkets are basically going to choose the companies to buy up so they can just bolt it onto their own supermarket operations. here endeth the lesson. Marek, we've gone over time. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I just say it's a brilliant space to be in. It's so exciting to be in and around the last mile. So I'm looking forward to next year. Let's see what happens. But above all, I'm looking forward to doing lots of great stuff with you, Ian. It's been really super. Thank you for being my co-host. I've really, really enjoyed it. And let's hope that our audience out there have enjoyed it as well.
Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, of course, please remember to hit the subscribe button down below and hit the notifications bell so you get a notification every time we upload a video during 2022. By subscribing, you help us keep this channel free. So please do subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and that's a little way that you can support us at The Last Mile Profits. Marek Różycki, thanks for being part of The Last Mile Profits today.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, everyone. And a happy new year, and have a wonderful Christmas, everybody.
Same from me. Bye, everyone.